Today, we are talking about awesome evaluations, and I preface my presentation by saying that the material is adapted from a training session, a workshop training session from the prior Toastmasters education program called, the workshop was called The Art of Effective Evaluations. And just want to preface that the material comes primarily from Toastmasters material. Just want to make sure I claim ownership to Toastmasters there. So we're looking today at awesome evaluations. Now, why do we need awesome evaluations? We'll be looking, in terms of what we'll go through, we'll be looking at why we need awesome evaluations. We'll be looking at who benefits from having excellent or awesome evaluations. We will look at approaches that you can use for great or awesome evaluations. The workshop from Toastmasters had more than four, but I'm highlighting for the time we have tonight, four approaches that you can use or consider for giving awesome evaluations. A very important topic that people usually get from these sessions is how to personalize language in giving feedback. This is huge, so we'll spend some time on that, and then I'll give some suggestions for how you can structure your evaluations. So let's start with why we need awesome evaluations. And I'll go through some of this, and then I'll come to some questions where I'll give you a chance to participate. But just for the interest of time, why do we need awesome evaluations in our clubs, in Toastmasters? I like to bring it back to the club mission. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Evaluations are a very important part of the Toastmasters experience, a very part of the club experience. It's very important that we do this well so that our members can grow and benefit from the feedback that we get. And by having effective evaluations, then we're meeting that mission of having a supportive and positive learning environment. Is there anyone that disagrees? Any mythical unicorns that's giving trouble? No? Okay. So then let me ask here, and in the room, if the mic is open, you can shout it out, and people on virtually can now also type in the chat. But who do you think benefits from having awesome evaluations? People virtually can open their mics. People in the room can speak, or you can type in the chat. Who do you think benefits from having awesome evaluations?
We do.
Who said that?
Lynn.
Yes, we do.
We do.
Good. Anybody else? Thank you, Lynn. Anybody else?
There's something coming from the Prince Albert Tech Room there. They're giving an answer there.
We said everyone.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Everyone, that's a good answer too. Yeah, so everyone benefits. The speaker benefits. When someone speaks, does a speech and gets feedback, they learn what they do well, what they can improve upon. And by getting that feedback, then they continually get better as they progress. The evaluator also benefits from learning how to give feedback. You benefit from, as you continue to give feedback, you're improving on helping members in the clubs. You also can carry over the evaluation skills to your workplace, as an example, where if you have team members or team co-workers that you have to give feedback to, then the experience from the Toastmasters evaluations you can carry over to other environments. So the evaluator also benefits. And very importantly, the club benefits from having awesome evaluations. I tell this story from time to time. The company I work with, when I just started working with them in 2015, I remember going out for drinks on a Friday. This was in 2016, and one of the gentlemen that was there, I was talking about Toastmasters, and he said, "Richard, I will never go to a Toastmasters meeting again." And I said, "Why?" He said he visited one club and the speaker spoke, and then when they were getting feedback, the evaluation was so harsh. In this person's opinion, he said it was so harsh, and it was my first time going. I felt scared to go. So if a club has, you know, like in that example, that club might suffer from people being afraid to come back to the club. If the club has good evaluations or awesome evaluations, it encourages your guests as well to come back. So everyone benefits, the speaker, the evaluator, the club. Got that? There was one more bullet point here that the mythical unicorn also benefits, but I left it off. So let's move on. Now, when I talk to approaches, I said in the beginning that there are many approaches. There, like from the workshop from Toastmasters, there's perhaps about 9 or 10. And tonight I'm highlighting 4 for the benefit of our time here tonight. So the first one is to learn the speaker's objectives. In our Pathways program now, we have an evaluation resource for each project. So when you are to provide an evaluation, it's good to get that evaluation resource so you know the objective of the speaker or of the presentation. So that can help you to prepare and structure your thoughts around what the objectives are so you can give your feedback accordingly. One suggestion in addition to what Toastmasters provides in the evaluation resources, encourage you to speak with the speaker. So you as evaluator, reach out to the speaker and say, apart from what's in the evaluation resource or the objectives, is there anything that you're working on? Is there any additional area you'd like me to provide feedback on? And that allows you to provide more value to the speaker, because the objectives of the project might be, going with Don's mythical dragon. It might be Don's mythical unicorn. It might be storytelling. The objective of the project is storytelling, but the speaker might say to you, well, in addition to the objectives, I'd like you to look at how well I use my hands, or I'd like you to watch out for my vocal, how I use my voice, and give you specific things that might not be on the objectives of the Pathways resource. So reach out to the speaker as well and see what else they're working on so you can provide that feedback. Any questions on that? All good?
Got it.
Okay, next.
Got it.
Got it? So next one is listen actively. It's very easy to, if someone is giving a speech and it is riveting, you can get carried away just listening and not necessarily actively taking or observing to give the feedback. So take notes, listen actively as the person speaks. So if you make sure you're taking notes as to the different things you see that are going well, any suggestions you have for improvement, and take notes so that when it is time to give the feedback, you don't necessarily fault on not remembering things precisely. Take notes. Third is show the speaker how to improve. What do we mean by this? Let's use an example. Let's say that Linda did a presentation and she was talking about someone who was sad, and she was talking about what the person was saying, but she was talking about it with a happy voice when she spoke about it. So then, if the feedback that was being given to her was, when you spoke about the person being sad, uh, you could have used a sad voice. That's just telling them, right? But then you could go a bit further to say, demonstrate and say, you could have used a sad voice, the person sounding somber, and you demonstrate how they could do that improvement, or be very specific in things that they can do. Don't just give the general, this could be improved, but demonstrate how it could be done. Does that make sense? Let me give another example. Let's say the person, I just had to check if I was wearing pants. Let's say the person was standing still throughout the entire speech without moving their hands. Instead of saying you you'd have liked to see them use their hands more, you could say, when you spoke about the tall building, you could have used your hand and said the tall building, or in other words, you can show them how they could use examples of how they could use their hands to emphasize a message. So that's another example. Okay, very important, because that's how the person is going to grow from getting specific information. And then the fourth, and this is one that I said that I would spend some time on. The fourth one is the personalized language. This is very important because when we give feedback, we're giving feedback based on our perspective. I've been to meetings where someone gave feedback and said they liked something about a speech and I didn't like it, or they didn't like something and I liked it, right? Uh, an example outside of Toastmasters where you'll see this, does anyone here watch YouTube videos? I do. All right. Now, oftentimes when I'm watching a YouTube video, I get into the comments, right? And when I get into the comments, I might see comments like, man, did you see the picture in the corner? And I didn't see the picture in the corner. Or they'll talk about something that the person said that I didn't hear. And I realize that people observe things differently. So when you give the feedback, it's important to personalize the language so that the speaker knows it's your feedback. So how can we personalize language? So you'll see some common things that people will say during their feedback. Would say things like, you should have done this, or you failed to grab my attention, or your opening was a bit weak. But instead of using that language where you're saying you, or it's like you're pointing to the person, personalize it to say, my reaction to so and so was, right? Another example is, it appeared to me that you were trying to do X, Y, Z. So again, showing it's your perspective. Or you could say, I felt that you, again, just putting the language to you, showing it's your observation or your feedback. Some additional examples would be, instead of saying, you should raise your voice louder, or you must speak for longer, or generalizing and saying good speakers do so and so. Personalize it by saying, I suggest that if something, or I think your next speech will have a stronger impact on me if you were to raise your voices during some of the speech, or have some more vocal variety. I would have liked to hear a different range in your voice. Or instead of the example of good speakers do it by, you could say a technique I have found helpful is so and so and so. So again, it's a challenge to, if you find yourself giving the feedback and saying a lot of you, that should give you caution. You need to change the frame or the perspective to emphasize your observations, right? So very important for the personalizing the language. Any questions on that? I will share the slides, but when I've done these workshops, that is one of the biggest takeaways I see people learn to personalize their language. Makes a huge difference. Now I'll finish up with some structure, some example structure. I recommend trying to put a structure to your evaluation. It makes it easier for the speaker to follow. It makes it easier for the meeting audience to follow. For people who go on to do evaluation contests, it makes a huge difference in terms of how you present your feedback. So the most common one, of course, is the sandwich. You provide something positive, you suggest an improvement, and you finish with positive. Most people know that one, correct? Okay. Next is, you can use this technique. Some people use this technique of what I saw, so what they observed with their eyes. I observed you, taking up a good space on the stage. What you heard, you can talk about how their voice was, or the impact of the story, and what you felt. So that's another technique that people use for putting their feedback. Okay. A very popular one in my home club is what we call a 3-2-1. You speak to the three things you liked the most, or three things that you liked the most about the speech, two suggestions for improvement, and finish off with the most impacting thing for you of the speech. Again, and so you can start off by saying, I'll be telling you three things I liked, I'll give two suggestions for improvement, and I'll finish off with the most impacting thing for me. And so as you go along, people can follow. For more advanced speakers, you can give three things that went well, three suggestions for improvement, and then you can summarize. And very importantly, as you go through the feedback, try to use transitional language. So, you say, so first I'll talk to the things that I thought you did well first, and you go through the three. And then as you move into improvements, you say, what could be improved? What improvements do I have? What suggestions do I have? You use language so that the people listening realize that you're moving or transitioning to different thoughts in the information. So use transitional language. Okay, hopefully you benefit from these structure suggestions. I'll give you a quick example here before we end. So you could start off by saying, what the speech objectives were. Then you can give two or three positive things, or two or three positive observations. Give one or two suggestions for improvement. And you could give a challenge to the presenter, and you can summarize. So this is an example. I'm at the red. I'll finish up shortly. One thing that I'll do here, it's one of the approaches that wasn't covered here, but I think I should point it out here. When you're giving feedback to a newer speaker, it's recommended you be lighter on the suggestions, because they can become overwhelmed. So for someone doing their icebreaker or one of their first three speeches, it could be overkill to give them two or three suggestions for improvements. But as people become more advanced, then you can give them more suggestions for improvement, because, so that's just a suggestion or to remember, which helps in not pushing away your newer members. Okay, so I'll finish up with, I've shared some evaluation behaviors you can consider tonight as you go forward in the future. So decide from what you have heard or what you have learned, what you want to change, recognize the benefits of the change. It could be personalizing your language, right? Recognize the benefits of the change, put the change in action. So for your next few evaluations, try to implement the change, make it a habit, and just keep on improving, okay? So I wish you all the best with this information, that you'll go and do awesome evaluations. If you have questions, you can pop it in the chat. I know we're out of time, but I'll be happy later on to answer questions or to put answers in the chat as well. With that, I will hand back over to our Toastmaster, Linda.